The Pope and Young Club wants to welcome you as we rally together to ensure our bow hunting opportunities for today and tomorrow. You've come to the podcast that believes in preserving, protecting, and promoting the passion for bow hunting. Join us as we strive to be the voice of today's bow hunter. This is the Pope and Young Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pope and Young Podcast. Jason Roundsville here, joined as always by my co-host Dylan Ray. And we have with us, straight from vacation in San Diego, California, we have world record holder Corky Richardson. Corky, welcome to the Pope and Young Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's going to be fun.
So now, when you're not vacationing, where's home for you?
Levine, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix there. So
Okay. So you're not too far from home.
No. 45-minute flight. So
Oh, not too bad at all.
45-minute flight, but 45 degrees difference too. So that's why I'm over here right now.
Yeah. And see, the crazy thing is most people go to San Diego for the sun. You go to San Diego to get out of the heat.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm I don't know, probably 1,500 miles just about due north of you. And man, it's still raining here. I don't know when we're going to get summer, but we're ready for it.
Yeah,
So,
good for you.
yeah. Well, hey, we wanted
We
to
haven't
have
seen a
you.
rain cloud in Phoenix in 3 months. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we needed it really bad, so nobody's complaining, but we're getting close to July, and if people's getting rained out on their 4th of July barbecues, I think you're going to start hearing complaints. So, but after some of the fire seasons we've had, it's nobody's saying too much.
I'll bet.
Well, hey, we wanted to have you on. I mean, you're a longtime supporter of the club, and I've gotten to visit with you several times at panels and different things. Wanted to have you on to talk about your world record bison and how that hunt went. And so just give us a background. If you want to talk, a little bit about you and who you are and your bow hunting history. And then let's talk about that world record, because I mean, it's exciting.
Sure. I started bow hunting a long time ago. I believe I was, when I could legally do it, 10 years old. And I'm 58 now, so that's been 48 years ago. So anyway, long time looked to draw a buffalo tag in Arizona is really hard. At that time, there were only 3 bull permits that were available, and we had thousands of people that were applying for them. And Arizona has a bonus point system to where you just keep applying and you get an extra bonus point every year. But at that time, it was still pretty tough to get a tag. And lo and behold, though, in 2001, I did draw my tag and went up scouting, looking around. I had my dad. We got quite a history in the bison hunting for Arizona. I was adamant and very strategic in getting it to where we could start hunting bison in Arizona with a bow. For years, they wouldn't allow it, and so we bought an auction tag. My dad did. My dad had already killed one with a rifle years before, and I told Ty Saplee at the time, which was our Arizona game branch supervisor, I said, "Well, I'm going to buy the auction tag for my father, and but we want to do it with a bow." And she said, "Well, we'll have to change the rules and set the rules before you do that." So we got the rules changed, and they changed about a week before we bought that permit. So my dad was the first person in Arizona to take a bison or a bull bison with a bow. So it goes back with a little history anyway there. And so then I tried to draw mine, and anyway, it took another 5 years or so before I got drawn. But anyway, 2001, I got drawn, and there were 3 of us with permits, and a guy from Tucson, another fellow named Ralph Stainer, Steve Stainer, had the tag from Chandler there, and then myself. So Steve and I, at that time, we could fly. We could get up in an airplane and fly around and look for them. And you can't do that anymore, but we could at that time. So we did. We flew quite a bit. Kaibab is a huge portion of the country. It's basically everything north of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. It's desolate up there. There's not much as far as towns and things go. We have one town, Fredonia, but it's north of the Grand Canyon. So you're hunting right along the rim of the Grand Canyon. And the bison have changed over the years. When my father hunted and when I hunted, the bison lived out on what they call the Raymond Ranch, or not the Raymond Ranch, but the House Rock Ranch. The House Rock Ranch sits on the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and they have a trek of probably, I don't know, I think it's 20 something miles that they do up and down the rim. They go from 5,000 feet up to 9,000 feet, and they would spend the summer out at the 5,000 foot level, and they'd spend the winter at the 9,000 foot level. So these bison are crazy. They go fight all that snow and everything in the winter months.
That's kind of the opposite of how everything else does it. They're literally they're passing the deer and elk as they're coming down. The bison are going up then.
Right. Exactly. And they would go to where the imprinting is a big thing. In other words, where a bison is born is where if a cow is born in a certain spot, it will go back to that spot to have its calf. So we had years and years of those bison that had been out on the House Rock Ranch. So they would go back out there. And so, but in the winter, the time I had my permit, I was only able to hunt 30 days, and my season started February 15th and went through March 15th. So we were forced to hunt them up on the cold side and up on top. So you go up and you fight snow, and fortunately we had a fresh snowfall every morning, and so we would cover lots of ground, whether by quad, snowmobile, or horses. We had all three in camp. We had quite the camp up there, big wall tents, and some of us that were going up to high ground, we had snowmobiles, and we would try and cut a track. And we hunted for 9 days before I actually encountered a bison. But on day 7, I cut some tracks, and those bison were headed back over to what we call the east side, which the east side is the low side in that country, or what we would call the House Rock Ranch. I found 3 bull tracks that were headed that way. So for 7 days, everybody would go out, and I had 6 or 8 people up there helping me, looking around for tracks. And not one track did we cut in 7 days until that time. Went over there, and I decided I'm going to go over to the east side. I'm going to go over there and see what I can find over there. So went over there and ended up, it took us a day to move. So day 9, I ended up on the east side over there, and we went up to a spring that my dad
and just Corky, just for so that people have kind of a perspective on this. When you talk, because you talk to some guys and they hunt a 22 acre piece. So moving from the west side to the east side is, well, you just grab your stuff and you walk 200 yards. No. How far was the move when you start talking about moving to the east side of this range? How far are we talking?
85 miles.
Okay.
Wow.
A little bit different move.
Yeah, you can't go up and over the mountain. All the highways are closed because the roads are closed up there because of all the snowfall. But you have to come back out to Fredonia, go back around, you go towards Page, and you come in from another direction. When you turn off of the highway there, the gravel road just to get to where the House Rock Ranch is 56 miles. So yeah, it's a long way desolate back in there. There's nothing in there. The House Rock Ranch is just that. It's a game and fish. It's where the game and fish is set up to manage bison and other wildlife as well. But mostly they were set up originally to manage the bison there. And I went there. Chuck Adams and I have been friends for quite some time. And Chuck had 2 tags.
Also a world record holder. I think several times now.
Yeah. And he at that time he had the world record, and Pete Shepley actually had it for just a few weeks, but Chuck had broke his, and Chuck had one that I believe went 115 inches, something like that. And anyway, Chuck had talked about a track that he he and I knew about a place up there called the Pigeon Pockets. Pigeon Pockets are a spot that's in the wilderness area that you got to walk into. And there's a spring there. And that spring I told you about earlier, that's the spring that my father and I went to. And Chuck had told me about a track there that he said he killed 2 bison in there, but he was buying auction tags. And he said, I never did find the track that fit the track that I never did find the hoof that fit the track of the bison that I was looking for. He said, there's some behemoth bison up there somewhere. I just can't find it.
Hey, Dylan,
And,
what do you think? What do you think about getting advice from Chuck Adams?
Yeah, I mean,
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in the company, you know, Chuck Adams, Pete Shepley, and I, we all have the same, you know, same world record animal. That's
see,
pretty good company.
I'm on the level where Chuck says, even I can't help you, son. Move on.
Yeah.
Chuck's the best. There's no question about it. I've always been impressed with him. He's a great man and very, very willing to share. And you know what I like about Chuck is my dad and I have hunted together for years, and that's my hunting team. I mean, I hunt with a lot of different people, but I've got one preferred team, and that's my dad. And Chuck was always that way with his dad. When we were up there, I guided for years before I actually pulled a permit for myself. And when Chuck was up there, I would see Chuck and his dad up there. They had an old beat up truck with an old beat up truck kind of halfway camper shell thing that went on a bed. There was a bed of a truck that they pulled around, that they had makeshift made this thing.
Right.
And so, you think of Chuck Adams, you think that he being a pristine guy like he is, that he would have motorhomes and this big entourage of things. Nah, he was the most humble guy you've ever seen in your life, and I always appreciated that about him. And he had his father up there. His dad, we ran into him several times. He'd be at the tailgate, and we asked, "Where's Chuck at?" He's out looking, and Chuck had walked into the Pigeon Pockets, so he was at that area. So those guys do it the hard way, and Chuck's the real deal, no question about it. But he told me about that bison, and my dad knew right where it was at, and so. You got to get where I was from. I had hunted 9 days walking in that snow, and I would walk trying to track those bison. And I'm 6'5". I've got a long torso on me, but I would walk until the snow would catch me at my waistline. So I was falling in 30 something inches, and that is so hard to walk in snow like that. And we'd try snowshoes, and that would work for a while, but it was really physically demanding hunt, really hard hunt. So I was so happy to get over to where we actually had some hard ground that you could walk on, and that's the east side was like that. Went over to where that spring was, and my dad decided to walk into the spring. It was a mile and a half in there, and I just started walking around, and there's some domestic cattle in there too that we would look around, and a bull cattle bovine track is very similar to a buffalo track. They're hard to tell the difference between. And the only way you can tell is if you get a spot where you can find some hair, and where the hair is, because the bison in the spring, they rub off, and they tend to get up against a fence or a stick or a tree that's whatever, and they try and get some of that spring hair off of them. And anyway, my dad had hiked in, and I looked around there, and I came back and I told Dad, I said, I found some tracks. I found some fresh droppings. And I was pretty excited. I thought, I hope it's bison. And he's like, I know it is. And he had reached in his pocket, and he had waddled up an entire bunch of mane hair where this bison had rubbed off on a big old dead stick. And it was actually a spot where a stick that it had a bunch of barbed wire around it, and it had pulled a bunch of the bison hair. And anyway, he said, well, I was depressed at that point. I said, Pops, I said, this is probably cattle that we're tracking. And he handed me the hair there, and he says, well, whatever he's doing, he's got this wrapped around his neck. And I saw that was bison hair. And,
it's hard to stay. When you start talking about 9 days without getting into them, you go 7 days before you cut a track, 9 days. It's hard to stay motivated at the level that you have to stay motivated to do some of these hunts when you're not seeing them and you're not in them. And if you don't know for sure they're there, it's tough to keep that intensity level.
Yeah. And my main partner that helped me out with it he's like my brother, Phil Dalrymple. He was with me, and Phil during that scouting, I had found some bison that had moved out over on that east side, but they had a younger bull with them. They only had about a 3 to 4 year old bull, and he wasn't what I was looking for. And but we knew where those buffalo were. Well, this old guy, one of the guys I told you was from Tucson. He's about an 80-year-old guy, him and his brother. And I told that guy where that bull was living. And you have to go to a meeting prior to the going out. All 3 hunters meet with the game and fish guy the night before your hunt starts. And the guy had been up there for 2 weeks. He hadn't found anything. And I said, I'm going to help you out. I said, I'm going to tell you where a buffalo is. And I showed him pictures of it. And he's like, oh, I'll shoot that bull in a minute. You can shoot it with a bow or a gun. It's your choice on that deal. And he was rifle hunting. And my buddy Phil, he's like, I cannot believe that you gave up the only bison that you know of. We've been scouting for 3 weeks, 3 weekends, and we found one little herd, and we're kind of using that as a backup. He's like, and you only got a month to get this thing done. It ain't like you got a long season. Now you got a 6-month season to hunt them if you get a tag on certain hunts. And I said, you know what, Phil, I just think it's the right thing to do. I want to see that guy get one too. And he's like, I don't understand that at all. And I said, you know what, God will bless me. I said, I'm going to help this guy out. I know that's the right thing to do. And the guy went out there and he killed it the first day. So Phil wasn't happy with my decision at that point, but it worked out 9 days later. Phil was with me all of those days. And that morning of that 9th day at noon, he left. And I found tracks. Dad and I found those tracks at about 1 in the afternoon. And anyway, I got on some. Once we determined that what I actually was on were bison, I found it had snowed the night before. I had a little skip of snow. And so I took off and started tracking the 2 tracks that I had. And I tracked them maybe a couple of miles, and they had went down on a point. So instead of going down on that point and possibly running them out, because it was pretty thick in there, I thought, I'm going to circle the point. The point went down on a ridge, and there was a canyon that completely encompassed that point. And I thought, if I can walk that canyon and I don't cut a track, I know they're on that point. And so that they couldn't come out because of the snow. So I did a big horseshoe deal, came around, and I completely encircled where the tracks went in, and there were no tracks coming out. So I knew that they were in there. And so I just set up on it. And I did all this on my own. My dad had gone back looking at another area there for some bison. But he was still near there, but just in a little different area. Anyway, long story short, I knew that they were in there and they hadn't come out. So I went into stealth mode. I actually took off my boots and I had big wool socks on. And even though there was a light snow, it was a soft snow. The sun had it where it wasn't crunchy, but I wanted to be as quiet as I possibly could. And I knew that they had to be within 400 to 500 yards somewhere because the point wasn't that long. And I started sneaking down in there, and sure enough, I jumped them out of their bed. And they ran back across the draw, went to the other side. And I was really happy and sad all at the same time. I'd waited 9 days. I did it all right. I got the wind right, got in there with my shoes off and sneaking around. And you got to remember now, it's snowing, and I've got both of my boots tied together and hung off the back of my belt. And I bumped these buffalo or these bison, and they run off, and I'm like, Lord, thanks for showing them to me, but could you bring them back? They had ran across a big old canyon, and I could actually see them on the other side. And they were a long way away, and I hadn't thrown up my binoculars to look at them, but I just knew they were nice bulls, both of them. One was exceptional, and one was really good, too. And I tell you, it was as if on cue, when I got done praying that prayer, Lord, please send them back to me. They turned, and they ran to me. They came back to me on a jog like a string. And I just couldn't believe what was happening. Evidently what I had done is I'd startled them. They didn't really know why they were running. They hadn't smelled me, and they came back. They came back because the feed was better over on the side that I was on. And I got over in position, and at 35 yards, he came up a hill, and he stopped. I could see his whole front side and one horn. I knew one horn was exceptional. I knew one horn was really nice, but I couldn't see the other side. It was behind some brush. But as he turned and went to take his step, I let it feed, and I shot him with a 22-19, and it went all the way through. It actually caught the end of the back of the shoulder blade and went through both shoulder blades and out the other side. And so I double lunged him, and he's a big old guy, and he went to waddling around, and he ran around, and he got in front of me, and I went running after him, just trying to keep him in sight. And I caught him. He had stopped up probably 60 yards away, and he was stopped, just barely walking. And I thought, well, I know I got a good shot in him. I'm going to try and get another one for good trailing. And I did him a Texas heart shot. And so the irony of that is, though, is I'm very ADD. I can do anything really good at one thing at a time, you know. So I was super locked in, and I remember being at full draw, aiming at this thing's rear end, and I thought I heard somebody talking to me, but I thought, well, my mind's playing tricks on me, you know. But I swore I heard my name being called out, and I shot and got this thing just right below the anus there. I Texas heart shot him, and it arrow buried all the way up to the nock. And he ran up and he stopped. And anyway, I grabbed another arrow and tried to get up there and get a third arrow in him. And anyway, he took off. But boy, the blood was great. Blood was great from my double lung shot, but it really showed up once I had hit that artery, you know, back there. And I got up there, and as I was trailing him, I really heard somebody say something. It was my dad, of all places. My dad was like, "Corky," and I'm like, "Oh." They scared me to death. I was all excited. I said, "Man," he's like, "He was right there in front of you." And I said, "I know, Pops." I said, "He's got a hole through both lungs, and now he's got one all the way." He said, "I saw your arrow go into the nock." He said, "That's not the only arrow you got in him." I said, "No." He said, "Well, big animal. We better wait." I'm like, I'm keeping on him. I was so excited. So I stayed after him. And anyway, he had only went a couple hundred yards, and he died. There's a road there that's a wilderness area road. Everything to the north of it is wilderness area. Everything to the south is non-wilderness area. He died 5 yards into the wilderness area. So I was able to pull my pickup next to him and, you know, quarter him up, load him up that way. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Somebody was looking out for you that day.
I'm telling you. Yeah. And he had a horn down he had one down, and he was so big I couldn't pull him up. And I've taken a bunch of bison with bows. I've actually hunted the Indian reservation in Montana, and so and we hunted one up there that we shot near, and that we could put on a trailer full body. And so I put the full body on there, and we took it to a meat locker, and because I wanted to know, what do they really weigh, guts and all.
Right.
And that particular one I had shot a couple of years before, and it weighed 2,000 pounds. 2,000 pounds with guts, everything in it. And this one had it by a good 100, 150 pounds. But you never really know, you know, because once you gut them and all that kind of stuff, you leave all the guts and stuff there. But yeah, it was quite the bison. So I think
wow.
Chuck was all excited when I had called him and told him, and he wanted me to measure how wide Chuck does that a lot. I don't know if I'm giving away his secrets, but I know he's a track man. Chuck is all about big tracks. You know, big animals have big tracks. That's just the way it goes. And he wanted to know the width across that track, how much it was. And I told him, and he says that matches his data. He keeps data on that stuff. He said, that's the one. He said, that's the one. He was living in the pigeon pockets. What happens on the bison up there is the bulls, when they get where they can't hang in the herd, they get to an age that they're not the dominant bull anymore. They get ran out, and they would kind of go into those wilderness areas. They go in there to die. They go in there to eventually just live their life out and be done. But that's what happened there. And so I was very fortunate to get a good old one like that. And like I said, for an hour and a half, I couldn't even get his head up where it was buried down in that mud and snow and stuff. I didn't even know if he had a horn on the other side. But when I pulled it out, he matched the other side. And yeah, it was a great time.
Did you have an idea that it was, you know, that you're like, hey, you knew it was a good one, but did you have any idea it was close to a world record?
I knew, you know, in the Pope and Young and the records there, I think we looked, I know in the Arizona book, the 10 bison that are in the Arizona book, I've either guided or killed 8 of the 10 bison in there. So I'm real involved in the bison. So I see them a lot. I can look at a horn and tell pretty close. I knew once I got up, not before I shot him. No, the answer, I didn't. I knew he was a really big bull, and I know he dwarfed the other bull. But and the other bull was a good bull. I'd shoot him. I'd have shot him first day if I'd have saw him. But he dwarfed the other one. So yeah, I knew that. But when I got up and I got my hands on the horn, the one horn, I just hoped that his other side matched. And it was a while because we had to work on him where he laid. We couldn't move him hardly at all, my dad and I. And so, but I knew I had once I had done it, because my dad's bull was just under Chuck's, and it was, I think Chuck's was 115.4, Dad's was 115 at the time. So I knew that it seemed like it was 15 inches bigger than all that. It was really long. The length is what was really exceptional on my bison. So
outstanding. And so now you're a measurer. So did you measure it, or did you take well, I know you can't do the official measuring on your own stuff, but I'm assuming you're probably stretching the tape about the time the last quarter hit the tailgate.
You know, I didn't. I was just enjoying the time to be up there with my best friend in the world and to be up there with my dad. Somehow it seemed wrong to measure it. I knew that I knew that he was big. I knew it's the biggest bison that I had ever heard of. And it's Arizona's state record too. You know, that includes, you know, with the rifle and all that. And I just knew that it was really big. And we had kind of a really cool moment up there that night. And it's a personal moment that happened between my best friend and I, but I'll let him share that someday if he wants to share that. So, but it was a really cool time. So
nice.
But no, I waited a while, and Phil's a measurer as well, and Phil measured it, and he's like, you know what you got? I'm like, no, I just know it's big, and he's like, yeah, it's really big. So I was very fortunate. So yeah.
So ground shrinkage did not apply in this particular instance.
It did not. It did not. So
that's good.
Yeah.
So did Phil, did he do your official measuring when you had it scored?
I think he was the one that's on file there that did it.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think so.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, and Phil's our treasurer too.
Yeah. He's moved into that. So in fact, we were talking about that this weekend. He's like, I don't think the Pope and Young had a CPA for quite a few years running the books.
Yeah.
But Phil is he's a meticulous guy, and he is a numbers cruncher, and so that's the exact guy you want there. Plus, he has a passion for bow hunting. That's to get both of those, to get an unbelievable CPA and an unbelievable hunter and a guy with a passion. It's hard to find, but he's both. So good man.
Yeah.
So
I was talking to Kurt, our president. And I said, man, you know, I've been here right up for exactly 4 years now. And I said, this is my fourth or third treasure in 4 years, just due to the way the cycle, you know, what do you call it? The
rotation and all that goes.
Yeah. The election cycle for board members. So yeah, right. I'm on treasure number 3 now. So we'll get him all trained up.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about it is we've got a lot of good things going. You know, we've got so many things that the Pope and Young is doing as far as conservation things and things that we're donating to, and you know that by funds and people donating money, it's changed a lot. Used to it was like, what's in the account? What do we owe somebody? It's not that anymore. There's all kinds of funds and things that we've created over the years that are great scholarships and all that. So you know that. I mean, it's been a lot of it's much more a conservation organization than it is a club anymore. You know, I mean, it's both, but it's really doing a lot to help back and to help future things. So it's really exciting, actually, to be part of it.
You know, and that's something, you know, you're on the inside, you know, a big supporter for a long time, and not everybody knows that. When we're out talking to folks that maybe haven't been exposed, they all know what bow hunters, they all know what Pope and Young is, but they think, oh, it's just the records. And Pope and Young's so much more than that it's nice to be able to have that dialogue, communicate that with folks so that they can understand, you know, records are a huge part of who we are and what we'll be, but there's so much more to the organization.
Well, what the organization has done, and very successfully, and there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it too, is now within most states' game and fish departments, when they want to know what the bow hunters think, when they want to know the bow hunter voice, they're coming to Pope and Young because that you represent so many people. And it's the organization that's given back and all that. It's earned, whether I think deservedly so personally, but it's earned the entitlement of the Pope and Young has a loud voice on what happens with our hunting and things. When a game and fish in these states need to know what do bow hunters think, Pope and Young has that voice, and it's a awesome and a daunting responsibility. It's a lot to keep track of, and but it's well earned and well deserved, and it's a great position to be in, and that's to me. To me, doesn't matter what we do as far as a club goes. I mean, I like being part of the club and all that, but to earn the respect of several state game and fish offices across the country is very, very respectful. So it's a great situation.
Yeah, I'll bet, unbeknownst to most folks, I'll bet I have, I don't know, 1 to 2 things a week come across my desk that we get to provide input on as the National Bow Hunting Organization. And, part of who we are is, I don't know what the correct terminology would be for the general public, but, a little more traditional or old school. And I think a lot, like you're talking about, the state organizations, a lot of them understand that because there is a historical significance to bow hunting that most people haven't experienced with other forms of hunting. I mean, there was a time where we didn't have bow seasons in the United States.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually that long ago when you start looking at when, 80 years ago, that we just didn't have bow seasons. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that. So,
yeah, it wasn't even that long ago. Arizona, I mean, our family's been devoted to the Pope and Young for years and years. It means a lot when, as a group and individual, we really parlayed that, hey, we need to be able to start hunting bison in Arizona. That happened because of me and a couple other guys in Arizona saying that we love the Pope and Young, but we want to be able to hunt bison in Arizona. So when I was fortunate enough to kill a world record in Arizona, that brought some notoriety. It looked good to the game and fish department that, hey, we allowed bow hunting to start. And my dad was the first guy to kill a bull with a bow. It looked good that we're all tied in together. So I think, Pope and Young has some fantastic, good people. And when good people have good fortune and it's allowed to bring some notoriety to these organizations, it makes everybody look good. And it's the right thing to do, so it was a win-win by getting, that when I think of bow hunting or bison hunting in Arizona, I think of my dad because he was the first guy to get that bull, down with a bow. And that kind of got it started and set the tone for the rest of it. So
very cool, man. Do you guys rib each other about, hey, Dad, mine's bigger?
Yeah, he knows that. It's funny. I guided my son. My son, at one time, I had the world record, and then I guided, or Russ, he got a tag, and he killed number 2. And that's on. You can look at YouTube, PSC Bow Hunting Adventures. They filmed that, but you get to see what our family's a whole lot about. I mean, you see my dad and my son embracing each other, and it's just a cool video to watch.
Yeah.
I'd encourage people to go on YouTube and find that. But but we had number 1 and number 2, and then my dad was like number 5, and then I guided another really good Pope and Young member, and I replaced that number 2 with him, and then 4 years later, let's see. You're going to catch me on names here. There's 2 of them. And then I replaced that number 2 with another number 2. So
you just keep bumping Russ down. And Russ is actually,
bumped him down.
Yeah, he's on our IT committee because he's got a lot of computer experience. So he's helping us out helping Pope and Young and bow hunters everywhere by helping with our IT stuff. So
right. Yeah, we're all doing what we can right now. So it's but you put your time and your effort where your heart is, and Pope and Young Club's been good for us, and it's good for everyone around. Like I said, as long as it keeps being long as it's the spokesman's, it's the voice of the bow hunter, it'll always be that. And I'm so glad that the Pope and Young in the past few years has become a much more inclusive organization. It's something. Things evolve. I mean, we want to keep it traditional. We want to keep it a sport that keeps it a fair chase always. But when you have, but we need to, if you're out there with a bow and it's a bow and you're pulling that back and you're holding that thing with your fingers or a release aid and it's not a crossbow, you're a bow hunter. We have gotten to point now with the Pope and Young to where we're including bow hunting, and that's what we needed to do. And I'm glad we went that direction. I'm glad that we're doing that now. So
yeah,
much more inclusive, and we got to represent our constituency. We really do. So
yeah. Well, it's if you can't represent bow hunters as a whole if you're so exclusive that you exclude most of them with equipment restrictions or whatnot. And so
right
yeah. So what's obviously the bison has been something that you've been around a lot of record class animals. What if you had to name another species? What have you had any of that experience of that caliber of trophies with any other species?
Well, I actually have. I've had, and I'll go back to Chuck Adams one time. The year that you guys gave Chuck the, what was it? Not, I'm thinking of Arizona. What's the Ishii Award?
The Ishii?
The Ishii Award, the year Chuck killed the Ishii Award, or that he accomplished his Ishii Award, was the year that I had an antelope that had 20 and 7/8 on one side and 20 and 6/8 on the other side.
Jeez.
And Chuck came to me, and I sat at Chuck's table, and he came to me and he says, "I want to apologize to you." And I said, "For what?" And he says, "Never in my life has an animal deserved an Ishii Award more than that antelope." He said, "That thing stands out more than any other trophy that I've ever seen in my life." But he said, "It's the year that I completed my 27." So he said, "I ended up getting it for that." And he said, "I just want to apologize to you." And I'm like, "You don't ever need to apologize to me for killing all 27 North American big game species with a bow and being the first to do it." I said, but anyway, so yeah, that pronghorn was really something else. So,
and where is that one now? Where's that one sitting?
I think Safari Club, I think it's number 1 or 2. I think with us it's number 2 or 3. It's and with antelope they dry. It's now we've actually fixed that to where I killed mine at the end of a scoring period, so it sat around for 2 years before the next biennial meeting that we had. However, it's right at 90, little over 90. So, nice. But it's still the tallest. I just did an Arizona Antelope Foundation. I do the seminar for them every year from the archery side of it, and I love doing it. I think it's my 15th year of doing the seminar for them, and I bring that thing in, and the guys just ooh and ah over it.
I can't even imagine the one that's just insane.
Cool thing about it is I killed it 9/9 of 1999, right?
That's cool.
There's one other antelope that has over 20-inch horns on both sides in the Boone and Crockett, actually. And we don't know what day it was killed, but we know that it was 9 of 1899. So
really,
I think I missed an opportunity on an article there for having the century-old 20-inch buck, right?
That's cool. That's very cool. I got to tell you, I got to see the Pope and Young World Record 3D course at the Mountain Archery Festival. It was 2 years ago, and I don't recall exactly which mountain it was on. But you're looking at all these massive trophies. I mean, representative of the current world records. Mule deer, whitetail, elk.
Right.
And I've got to tell you, the one, and it shocked me. I would have never even thought that it was in the runnings, but the one that just like you say, that truly just stood out, even among the world records, is that antelope. Because you just look at it and you're like, a big elk is a big elk. And then, a world record is 20 inches bigger. And then this particular antelope, you just look and you're just like, that just can't be right. That's just that has to be fake. And so that was one of the ones, of all the ones that we had there, that was, of all of them, probably the one that to me stood out the most.
Yeah, that would have been Marvin Zieser's, very good friend of mine. We worked together all the time in Arizona, and just stovepipe. I mean, the mass on that thing was amazing. And what's interesting is all of those big antelope. There was a few other ones that were killed. In that they're all killed within a mile of each other in Arizona, and unfortunately, all that area has been encroached upon houses, and so we're really struggling with our antelope in Arizona right now. They're not the trophies that we used to have, and even our herds are way down. We're way down on that's of all the things in Arizona. The one thing that we're really hurting on is our pronghorn, and but all of those big antelope that came from Arizona all came from the same unit within just literally hundreds of yards of each other. I know where Marvin killed his. I know where mine died. I know where Kevin Robinson killed his, and a couple other guys. And they're all, it's really, really crazy. It's within 3 ridges of each other. So it's all about genetics, right? So,
yeah. So what's the next one that you're going to have maybe at panel or potential world record?
Only thing this year I got drawn for is after several years, I finally drew a New Mexico elk tag. So I'm excited about that. It's not got big elk, but it's got elk. And so I'm happy to get after it. So, after 26 years of applying with my father, last year I drew my Utah moose tag. We were the 2 non-residents with the most points. And so we got down to where we were the only 2 left, and Utah had a tag that goes to the guy with the most non-resident points. And so we were able to manage that hunt. So I drew it last year, and Pop's got it this year. So my dad's 84, and after 26 years of applying, he has his Utah moose tag. So I think I've got my dad's pretty influential guy. I think I had about 12 guys when they found out that my dad had that tag, volunteered that they're coming up to help. And guys of pretty big caliber that as well. Dallas Smith came up and helped me on my hunt. He's not going to miss my dad's hunt. Dallas has just died in the wool, Utah guy, and
sure,
he's been a friend and just a wonderful help all along. He's so connected up there, so he's going to be involved in that too. But we're really looking forward to that. Hunting with my pops at 84, and
that's nice.
You can shoot with a gun too if you want, but my dad's like, we're not bringing no gun. He said, every time I've hunted a moose, they're not the smartest critter in the world. He said, we'll get one with a bow. So I'm like, all right, I love it.
You know what? I'll tell you what, connect up with that moose, and then let's get you and your dad on, and we'll talk about it. And then we'll just, we'll have your dad come in and talk about moose hunting at 84, where he's still not too old to do it with a bow. And that'll take a lot of the excuses away from some of these other folks.
You'll have to hook up with Russ and have him send. My dad completed his Big 10 in Arizona. That's everything in Arizona with a bow and arrow set. My dad got his done at 80 because it took him that long to draw his desert sheep tag. But Russ put together just an unbelievable video of that. Have to have Russ send you the link to that video. Nice. It's amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah. You know what, Dylan? Let's put him down. Let's see if we can't make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, you mentioned elk, you're in an area without big elk. And I'll tell you what, you lucked out with your bison being 5 yards from the road. If you think an elk is not very big, you shoot a spike bull 5 miles from the truck, and they're bigger than you think.
Yeah. You walk up to it and you look at it going, oh my goodness, what have I done? I know that I've killed some moose in Alaska, and I killed one time 5 miles from camp. I was younger and dumber in those days. One of those, it doesn't matter where it's at, I'll hunt it. I did it.
Yeah.
And I looked at that going, what in the world did I do? Well, I created a 3-day, every hour of every day, just about packing that moose out. But it was fun.
there's a time where you don't understand when your dad says, don't look over there because you don't want to see something over there. You don't understand that because you literally
Right.
hike all day, do whatever it takes to get into something. And then later you realize, oh, don't look over there. You might actually see something over there. And then we have to go chase it. And there
I
aren't
was
any
never
roads over there.
I was never so happy. I was going back after the last front shoulder, the last piece that I had to pull out, and I got there, and a brown bear had finally found it on day 2.5, and I was like, you know what, buddy, that's yours.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy. You got it, and I don't have to break my back this last session. I don't know how bad that sounds, but anyway, I figured I'd carried out plenty of moose, and the brown bears
That's
they got to
funny.
eat too.
Yeah,
I let him have that last front shoulder.
yeah. Well, yeah. Now, if a brown bear's in there, I think that was probably the wise move.
Yeah, no, they win.
Yeah.
They win every time. So
That's good. Well, Corky, here's one question we ask every guest is when you find yourself up on the mountain chasing bison at 10,000 feet or out in the desert chasing antelope, when you're out hunting, what's one maybe non-traditional item that you like to have with you on a hunt?
oh, I carry an umbrella a lot, and I have a camo umbrella, and I use that on so many things. And like when I was doing the antelope seminar the other day, the umbrella I got is it's a tree umbrella. So in other words, it's the one that you would set, on your tree stand that goes up above your head. Then it has on the back part, it's flat, but it kind of like wraps around the tree. I use that in Arizona. I don't leave without an umbrella, and I use it for exactly the opposite reason. I don't use it in Arizona for the rain. I use it for the sun. The sun's just beats you because you got to stay out there, and like hunting pronghorn in Arizona, you're in 100 plus degrees in Nevada and New Mexico and all that for that reason, for that matter. But I use it for the shade portion of it to keep it to where it's cooled that allows me to stay out there. If you have a little shade, you're fine. You can stay out there in that kind of heat. But if you just have that direct sun beating down on you, and even if you got a hat on, a brimmed hat and all that, still that thing's hitting the top of your head, and there's something about that just burns you up. And a lot of this Western hunting, you need something to keep you cool. And I use an umbrella. I think is probably the craziest thing that I have in my pack. I always got my Bible in there, but I think a whole bunch of guys always have their Bible in there too. So anyway, it's just I like sitting out there, and I don't know. I get my mind clear, and God talks to me pretty clear out there when I'm got nothing else to distract me.
That's umbrella. That's a new one. That's first we've had.
It's not only a new one, but it's a tip as well. I like it.
It's a tip.
It's a little tip.
I'm from Western Oregon, where I don't know if we invented rain, but I think we perfected it. And so, and from here, I don't know anybody. I think my mom owns an umbrella, but I don't know that I've ever seen her use it. And so I was just commenting to somebody the other day. I was going along and I saw somebody with an umbrella, and I'm like, they must be from California, recent transplant, because most Oregonians don't use umbrellas. And then here I am, like in the back of my mind, the guy from Arizona was like, well, I take an umbrella. And I'm like, of course he does. But then he had a good reason. I'm like, that makes sense. I like that. So,
well, the other reason for that umbrella is it's flat, like I said, on that one side. And so you open it up and you set it down, it creates a blind in front of you. I can set behind that, and I've got a complete blind in front of me. And so it has several purposes. But that's, and actually hunting turkeys this year up on the White Mountain Indian Reservation, I was using that bumping along, and I was able to stock up on turkeys, which are the sharpest animal in the world out there, vision-wise goes, and maybe next to a pronghorn. And but you could bump up a road with one of those blinds just using that. And then another little trick of using a fan of a turkey. I mean, we had more turkeys come to us by flashing a fan than we did calling at them this year. It was amazing. Really fun, really cool, unique. The Indians up there showed us that. The White Mountain Apache tribe, they've known that for years, but it's called flashing turkeys. And you take a fan off of a bird that somebody else had shot, and you stick that out on the side, and you just flash that back and forth, and it was amazing. They come so fast that I don't want to tell you how many turkeys I missed under 10 yards this year because they come so fast and they're all puffed up, and it was really frustrating for me.
You don't have to tell us, and we won't ask.
There you go.
So,
There you go.
Well, outstanding. That is neat. Umbrella, Dylan, mark that one down. I like it.
Yeah.
And I keep in Arizona. I keep my tweezers are on a lanyard. I have tweezers that I keep around my neck all the time because I'm in cactus all day long. I get cactus in me, and that's true in a lot of states. And I'll tell you another tip that's really cool. If you turn your binoculars upside down and you look through the objective lens, looking back down through the eyepiece, it makes the most wonderful magnifying glass you've ever seen in your life. And so you imagine your binoculars hanging on your neck. You turn them upside down. You're looking through the big end, looking towards the small end, and you can put your thumb down there. And with those tweezers, you can see what you're actually needing to do to pull it out sticker wise. And I use that at least once a day in Arizona because everything out here either pokes you, scratches you, or bites you. So
yeah.
So I use that too. So anyway, if you see me, I'm going to have an umbrella and I'm going to have a lanyard with a pair of tweezers and any more pair of readers on it. I hit 42 and all of a sudden I need readers. So
well, that's another tip. All right. Well, while we're rolling, what's another one that you have for our listeners?
How do we kill a world record? What's your number one tip to kill a world record?
Stay at it, I guess. Yeah. I told those guys. In fact, we had a couple other fellows that were presenting, and one guy was presenting on the size of antelope and all that. And they kept telling any trophy is a good trophy, which I understand what he was trying to say. Yeah, to kill a pronghorn, to kill a Pope and Young pronghorn, that's a trophy. It really is. But there's a difference between a 70-inch and an 80-inch. And if you're in an area that has 80 inches, my dad told me a long time ago, you know how you kill an 80-inch antelope? And I'm like, no, Pops. He says, don't shoot 70 inchers. And that's true. Your opportunity will come. And on any animal, I believe, if you stay out there long enough, nice ones come by. But Chuck Adams never got all those world records that he got by shooting 185 inch fielder is a monster. But Chuck kills them over 2 all the time. I've killed 5 over 200 inches, a couple non-typicals and 3 typicals. But the only way you get those is let a 180, 185 walk. And it's hard to do, but after you've been seasoned for a while and, you're okay with walking and eating some tagged soup, let some of those little guys go. And, because you don't have a shot at a big one if you shoot the little ones. Unless you're hunting like Kodiak where you shoot 5 deer or something like that.
Yeah.
And,
although it's interesting you mentioned the blacktails because that was his most recent world record. And he got that one. That was the first deer he saw when he got on that hunt was the one he shot as a record. Yeah. So, and that hunt, Chuck, just so you know, not to out Chuck, but he did actually shoot the smallest deer he'd seen up until then. Happened to be a world record. But it's Chuck Adams, so he knows.
Yeah. He's got the it factor. There's no question. When it comes to it, he has it. And I was just inducted into the Arizona Bow Hunting Hall of Fame in March. Actually, my wife and I were both my ex-wife and I were both inducted. And I got my son did the inductee or the induction, and he compared me to Chuck and talking about having the it factor. So to be in the same subject line as Chuck Adams has been an honor to me. He's good, man. So
yeah, and I just like, one of the things with Chuck, I saw a picture he posted one time, and I think this was I think it was last season, might have been from that Alaska hunt, and it was one of those things where there's you got guys out there who they'll only wear Sitka, and other guys I'll only wear Kuya, and some guys only wear something, and all of a sudden. He took a picture of the inside of his tent. You remember that, Dylan? I think you might have pointed it out.
Yeah. It was
and
like
he had stuff,
old cotton.
Yeah. And it's like, he's got some of the new stuff too, but a lot of what he had hanging in that tent was stuff that you didn't have to be a rich man or one of the best bow hunters in the world to go out and afford. It was really, he's the legitimate deal that everybody could do. It's pretty impressive. I really enjoy visiting with him every chance I get.
Yeah. That's true. Like I told you, when I running into him and his dad, you'd think with a guy with the prestige that he had that you would see a motorhome and all that stuff. And they were camping in the back of a pickup bed that they had welded a trailer hitch on and had a camper shell on the back. And that was their stove. That was their camp. That was everything. And they were doing it rough, So
that's awesome. I don't get too many opportunities. We talked to a lot of really, influential people and well-known bow hunters. And that was one of the ones when Chuck Adams called me on my cell phone one time. That's one I called my dad for. It's like, you will never believe who just called me.
Yeah. Cool.
But anyway, well, Corky, hey, congratulations. Thank you so much for all you do for Pope and Young. I know your family's been involved for a long time and you're big supporters. We appreciate you. And thanks again for joining us today.
All right. Hey, thank you. And I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be on another one of these for some other critter that comes my way, that God sends my way.
Sounds good. And you know what? Let's work on getting your dad on. I think that'd be a great conversation.
Yeah, we'd love to do it. So,
all right. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Have
guys.
a great day.
Appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.